I'd like to welcome you to our SolarWinds MSP Tech Series. Today we're doing a feature focus on automation and scripting. And joining us today is myself, David Ionetta. I'm a sales engineer for MSP SolarWinds, and also joined today is Ernest Bird, our very own. He is the scripting guru here, so we're very happy to have him doing this webinar for us today. And also Brian Teasley, another engineer who will be typing away, answering your questions throughout the entire webinar. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Are we recording? Yes, we are recording as we speak. How about questions and answers? We're going to do Q&A during the ongoing. I'm going to show you in a minute how we're going to do that. And also we'll take some live answers to questions if we have some time today. Any long answers we'll address with a follow-up email, or even if a tech walk is necessary, we can schedule something like that. Okay, so if you have a question during the webinar, go ahead and find your GoToWebinar control panel, type it in there, and again, our very own Brian Teasley will be typing away feverishly as he goes. I think he has 12 fingers sometimes, he types so fast, so he'll be getting those questions out to you just as quickly as possible, and again, we'll get to some of those live if we have enough time today. So what are we talking about today? One of the things I'm really amazed about is when it comes to automation. Part of my job, a big part of my job as a sales engineer, is doing tech walks and training with both trialists and current customers. And what I'm always amazed about is when I say, hey, let's talk a little bit about automation, and I'm in a view only in their dashboard, and there's nothing. Not any automated tasks whatsoever, and I'm very surprised at that. Automation is actually essential for an MSP who's looking to expand their business, and if you're an in-house administrator, this is the way that you're going to get a lot more done in your given work week, so you're not putting in those extra hours pulling your hair out. So why do the same task machine by machine over and over again when you can automate and do a lot of management of that right from the RM dashboard? So the question that I get a lot of times is, how do we get that set up and how do we do that? And one of the nice things about automation in the RM dashboard is essentially there are 3 levels to automation. There's going to be the custom scripts, there's going to be the automation manager, and there's going to be automated tasks. So let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, scripts. Some of you guys are like my buddy Ernest here, love writing the scripts. That you like the detail of that. You got maybe some programming background. You love writing these scripts. You'd rather write them than eat ice cream or go out on a Saturday night. I don't know. That's you. You love writing your scripts. That's fine. You write your scripts all you want. Go ahead, upload them into the dashboard. We support all the main languages. You can put them up there and run them as you see fit. The next group of you guys is saying, David, I love the idea of scripts, and I would love to be able to build some scripts, but I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention in that class, or maybe I flipped and skipped through those pages, but I'd like to get into myself. Do you have like a drag and drop interface or something like that? Absolutely. For you, what we have is what's called Automation Manager, and from your dashboard, you can download this little tool. It installs very quickly, and it gives you over 600 variables to choose from, so you can go ahead and feel like a script builder by actually building your scripts right from here. It's going to do all the logic, allow you to test out the scripts right from hand right there. And then there's some of you that are saying, well, David, who's got time for that? I don't. Well, do you have any scripts built in? And yes, we do. There is, under the automated tasks, there is a whole suite of scripts ready to go. You click on them, you add you name it whatever you like, you select some variables, easy to answer questions, you decide when you're going to run them. Maybe it's going to be a run once, maybe it's going to be a scheduled event, maybe it's going to be triggered by event. You saw how quickly and easily you can get that script running and working in the dashboard that way. So 3 levels of scripting. We are covering all of the basics to get you up and running in the script building process here. Now keep in mind how powerful this is. A couple of things about script building and getting into automation. You can even start out slow and just get a few of them, building up your confidence that what you run is going to actually occur on the given machines, especially when you get a little sketchy doing something on a server for the first time. But automation not only allows you to schedule a lot of those events and things that you would be doing on a regular basis, but think about this. If you're doing them manually, then you're going to have human error, and we're introducing making mistakes. You're starting one thing, you're waiting for it to go through, you decide to check an email, you didn't do the next step, Human error when you are doing a task by script, if you write the script or set up the script correctly the first time, it is going to be performed exactly the same way every single time. And that's the beauty, that's the power of automation. And also, instead of having 10 technicians to do a job, sometimes you can have just a couple set up, and now you can start working on more interesting things. I mean, who wants to be cleaning up temp files and doing things like that? We got into IT because it interests us. We want to get into those projects. We want to kind of get away from the things, the day-to-day tasks, the maintenance and things like that have to be done, and we want to be able to do a lot of the more engaging things that we've learned and desire and read about. So this automation is going to free you up so that you have more time. It's going to free you up so that you're more efficient, and it's going to free you up so that you're not pulling your hair out all the time and actually having some time to yourself, time to do things, unless you're, like Ernest and love writing these scripts all the time and that's your thing, then, you can just have time to write scripts, I guess. But anyway, for no further ado, we're going to go live with Ernest now. He's going to dive into the dashboard. He's going to show us how this is all done. And Ernest, over to you.
All right, thank you, David. Just for audience information, I'd rather eat ice cream than build scripts. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to start off taking a look at the new capabilities within the dashboard. Been around for several months, but it's an automation manager. It's where you can have a drag and drop interface, as David was mentioning, to roughly 600 objects, and it allows you to take a more logical approach to building your automation. Don't worry about syntax or code or anything like that. It doesn't require a development degree. You don't have to hire out a developer even. What we're going to do is look at how to download the automation manager, how to utilize that and building custom scripts and tasks, and also managing those items through the dashboard. So I'll go ahead and start with, here's my dashboard, and what I want to do as a user is get installed to my system, the automation manager. So under the settings, script manager, you're going to find in the top right-hand corner the automation manager. This is where you're going to obtain your download and install for the system. This is available for your Windows systems. And when you left click on that, you'll see the general requirements. So as long as you're on the current general announce and your target devices that you intend to assign anything built out of this interface to have .NET Framework 4.5 or later installed, you'll be able to take advantage of this automation manager. These are actually going to be AMP files. So where you see in the import or upload the supported script types, AMP is directly associated with Automation Manager. If you're concerned about having your .NET 4.5 or later installed to the systems, don't worry about that. We do have built in the repository, which is available at the client or site or even device level, the task to install .NET 4.5.1. So if you search here, install.NET, you can quickly deploy that out to your systems. You can also use asset tracking to assess which systems have that present before doing that deployment. So now I'm going to take a look at the automation manager. We're going to get that downloaded and installed here. Back under the script manager, here's the download. We can save that. Once we have that saved to the system, we can double click to execute that, and it will install fairly quickly. And then we'll be able to load that to create some custom builds. I'm going to go ahead and bring the automation manager into the foreground. Everyone should now see that. And I'm going to start with a script check. Now there's a couple ways that you can approach doing the automation within here. You can have conditionals built into an automated task sequence, which we'll discuss after doing the first build. You can also look at building conditional type checks to produce a failure to the dashboard where you can have tasks run out under a given condition. So the first one that I actually want to demonstrate today is going to be a check for a given condition, and if that condition does not exist, it will produce back to the dashboard a failure. We're then going to have the failure trigger a task, which I also build out of here. So in this given example, I want to look for a file existence. So we're going to go ahead and give this an appropriate name. We're going to call this file check. And in the description, we're going to talk about what it's intended to do. So this looks for a static file. Fail if not present. So the description is for your eyes primarily as you're building it, just to understand your focus. And once you have that saved, or click OK, this is not actually saving it. We'll look at saving it in a moment. Then you'll have your interface where you can drag your objects in. The start item also allows you to create variables within. So if you're going to have string variables or numeric entries, you can build those in as objects to be called on with a linking. So what I want to start with here is looking for an item where the file exists. Now, as you can see, a pretty extensive capability set, and it may be with 600 objects kind of hard to find, so we offer in the top left a search feature. So I could go top down and look through the different groups. If you want to collapse even the groups, just maybe you understand what your direct intention is, you can locate it here. But in this given example, I'm looking for file exists. Now I did collapse some of the objects, so here expanding it, I located the file exists conditional, and I'm going to drag that into the interface. What I want this to do is look for a static file on this system. So I'm going to go ahead and create it under the start item as an input parameter. Now I can also in some of these fields type as well, but just to show use of this object, I'm going to add it. I'm going to call this local file and name. And for the value, I want to give the absolute path and the name of the file. I'm going to look for a file called nonsense.txt. Hopefully that file is not present, based on my goal being that I want it to have a failure. Once I click OK, it's going to be available to link here in this object. Now if I want to understand exactly what this variable does, I can left click on this object, and over in the right hand side I'm going to see the details of required variable inputs and also what it does and the overall goal. So in this given scenario, file, the full path of the file to check, that's a string variable and required. The conditional is a Boolean, so that's going to be true or false that is returned. So I'm going to go ahead and select the object, and it uses this like as a dynamic variable versus the hard set path in this. What I want it to do though is fail if this given item does not exist. So if I were to start here and do a run, this is going to be my decoder, if you would, or it's going to look to make sure all my syntax and everything's appropriate. Here I'm looking in the bottom. This gives a condition of false, and that file does not exist. I can also look to see if any errors occur. So far this is good, but I need to go a step further. So I'm going to look for another object, and the other object is going to be more of a workflow. This is similar to the conditional, and it's going to be the if-then that I'm looking for. So here, control flow, we've got the if and the if-else. I'm going to drag that in. And here on the right-hand side, you'll see that there are certain input parameters. Again, so it's looking for a specific variable to check. The condition, it's looking for a logical condition, which is here in the drop-down we'll see populated. And then it's going to have a value. So in this given variable, I'm going to point at a given object. So I'm going to look at the file exists result. Also, I can then choose the condition of equals. And in this, the value you can see is looking for a given string. So I can look up objects, or I can just type in this field. I'm going to first type in false. Now, I believe in this given object, it's looking for 0, 1. So we're going to try to do the run and see if we get any errors. And I actually did receive, when I click run, please correct validation errors before executing script. So when I click OK, I'm going to jump over to the errors page, and it says please enter a numerical value in the value field. So typically you're going to have, for false, 0 is going to be the equivalent, and true would be 1. In this given scenario, this should be coming out as a failure. So that should be my 0. I'm going to run this. I'm getting another item. Let me just double check and see. At least one object must be added to this. So this is where I actually want to have the failure return. So if I now go into my failure, I want to search here. And this is my control flow, fail script. So overall it's saying if my given local file does not exist, give me a failure to the dashboard. That's my ultimate goal. So one more time, we'll hit the run. We'll select the object. It's looking for C:\nonsense.txt. And output looks like everything ran through successfully, and it produced the script failed error, which is what I'm looking for. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this down under the file save as. You can just go ahead and save to the desktop. I'm going to do this file check.amp. And before I upload this to my dashboard for the assignment, I'm going to go ahead and build out a task now. So I'm going to close this, we'll relaunch it, and I'm going to have a task that's going to do an operation. Just for our enjoyment, what I'm going to do is create a prompt task, and this prompt task is going to come to the foreground of my test system. Let me reload the Automation Manager, and I'll show you what that looks like. So in the search, I'm going to look for the prompt variable. Here we go. Go ahead and drag that in. Now, some of these, again, I can type in, or I can create these input parameters. I'm going to go ahead and just type everything in here. First, understanding how to use it. We're going to make a title. So this is going to be called user message. The prompt is going to be what I want to display. We're going to set a wait here of 120 seconds. And we'll just leave it simple with the OK button for right now. Let's go ahead and we'll run this, make sure no errors. And as a preview, this is what's going to show on the test system when I do the run. So I'll click to close or OK. And I'm going to go ahead and save this down as an AMP file as well. We'll call it prompt user. And now I want to go ahead and do the upload. Just a second here. I believe I've got some settings on the system to not show extensions. So I may be able to remove the extension on that. So now I'm going in the dashboard, and I'm going to, under the Settings Script Manager, going to do the upload. So because this is for the webinar, I'm going to create a new. I'll give it a name, starting it with webinar. And we're going to call this conditional failure. Giving it an appropriate description so if someone else goes to utilize this, they understand its intention. We're going to upload this as a script check for the Windows systems, and we're going to browse to locate this item. Once I go ahead and save that for upload, it's going to be available if I search by name in this view. Now what you will see is in this view, any scripts or code that you develop using one of the other non-language types, you'll be able to view the code. You can see what is built into it. If it's been developed with the Automation Manager, your viewing of the code is actually done within the Automation Manager build. So that's how you can identify where the source is for that given item. If you have a lot of items in your automation repository, keep in mind these are your custom automated tasks or script checks, ones that you've uploaded, additional to what we offer as a built-in. The next item I'm going to go ahead and upload into the dashboard is going to be the task to prompt the user. We'll start this off with webinar. I'm going to set this as an automated task for Windows, and there is my specific AMP file that I'm looking for. So now that these have been uploaded, I can assign the script check to a given device. I can assign it to many devices under the File, Add Check, and I can choose a script check and have every system in my dashboard adopt that if I want to with minimal clicks. So it will show in the repository where I can then select all systems, and I'll choose the given under my user defined section, the webinar conditional failure. I can even go as far as, instead of just adding it through those two means, building it into a template. So I can go to the settings, monitoring template, manage templates, and I can have a template built out to include script checks or automated tasks or both. This may be useful in a scenario where you want to onboard with certain items. Let's say you want to have a given application removed if it exists on the system. We'll look at that in a moment back in the Automation Manager once we utilize this and understand how that can be achieved for the onboarding aspect. So here you can include a script check, then an automated task where you could have those two items built in. And then what you can do is go to Settings, Monitoring Templates, New Device Installation Settings, and you could choose for a structure, a given set of systems, to take on those given items as well as do the check detection process. So this is primarily for onboarding with tasks. But what I want to do is, in this given scenario, choose this one specific highlighted device. I'm going to add the script check here locally, and I'm going to choose the one that we built for the webinar, conditional failure. I'll just increase the timeout. Since I have a few other script checks on the system, it may be a good idea to have it closer to the maximum timeout. Now this just sets a hard limiter at the top. You can go as far as 150 milliseconds, or excuse me, 150 seconds, where your automated task can actually run for hours if you wish. That's really the only difference between the script checks and the automated task, other than intention. So your automated task, you're typically going to make changes to the system or manage it, where your script checks are more like informational reporting. So we're going to save this down to the system. What I also want to do is, before doing that, I'm going to assign a task after creating the check. I can go to the task tab and do that separately, or I can right-click a check to add a task, but in this I can make it through one given wizard. The next, this will be asking me what automated task I want to link with that. I'm actually going to, in this, choose under my user-defined section, and I do have a search here. If I want to just search for webinar, I can quickly locate it. And I can give it a descriptive name. Don't always have to do that, but this sometimes helps as well when you have other technicians that are looking at these tasks. Maybe you have information around the interval when it's running, even how it's linked. As a redundant definition, that's fine. Setting permitted execution time for up to an hour. We know that it's only going to last for 2 minutes if that is to load, should the condition be met. Once I've finished this, what it's going to do is it's going to synchronize both the script check and the automated task with the system. So here you'll see it with the system under the webinar, awaiting first run. Typically when you first click it, it'll be awaiting synchronization, but within a matter of a minute it's going to be on the target system. So then it can run, so it'll look like this. Once it synchronizes, it will begin its routine check and report that in on interval. So I have an actual connection to my test system where I've just assigned it. While we're waiting on that to happen, I want to show you where that's going to be delivered. First, I'll go ahead and just expedite this. We can go through and we can expedite the run operation ahead of the interval by right-clicking, and we can just run check. That'll allow for a 24/7 interval to be conducted. And over on the target system, where these script check items and tasks arrive, is going to be under the install directory. So it's going to come under the Advanced Monitoring Agent scripts folder. And there's a script runner module that's going to load these. So you can look by timestamp here and see the given files as they've been delivered. So if you ever want to troubleshoot with remote background management, for example, you can do so, and I'll explain how to do that. So here is actually my condition was met, which was a failure. That file did not exist. So it prompts to the foreground of the machine, sorry, I could not find the file that you were looking for. This will sit for 2 minutes if I want, or I can close and terminate it. And that's done. But let's take a look at just general troubleshooting. I also want to explain some of the permissions. We're going to go back to the Automation Manager again, and I'll show how to do a two-part. Then I also want to talk about some of the help file resources, how you can go in and build your own scripts outside of the Automation Manager and get a little bit more specific should you have knowledge of syntax and general development. But first, I'm going to connect to this same target via remote background management and show how this can be a helpful resource if you've got your own custom scripts. Now keep in mind we don't provide any handlers. We use the native handlers for the language. So in a given scenario where I may write something, I prefer the VB script language. Everybody may have their own preference, but that is something that I'm more familiar with. You can also do PowerShell or something else. But with this, it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to show how to do even the exit codes behind the next example in the Automation Manager. Right now, I'm doing the remote background management connection. And this is connected to the same machine that I'm demonstrating the interactive connection with. So here I can do a directory analysis, or I can go in and do DNS troubleshooting if need be, and I'm not interrupting the user. So let me prove to you that I'm on the same machine and it's not interactive. One, I can actually call on utilities. As long as it's one directional, I can use command line variables there. I can even, in this, load up a notepad file, and if I jump over to the process control, sort alphabetically, I can take notepad.exe and I'm going to terminate that. Let's go ahead and end process. So there, again, not interactive to the end user, and definitely a good channel of communication to the system. But where this is most helpful is when you're troubleshooting your own custom scripts. So if I were to want to run a script that I have on system, one of my VB scripts, I can call on the handler. So let me go ahead and do a change of the directory. And I'm going to call to a given example file. The connection through the remote background management channel is the same connection that you have when a script check or automated task runs, and that is to a non-interactive profile. That's using local system, and therefore you want to make sure you don't have any prompts or halts when you're delivering these. So I can do a dir listing here. Now I can see date and timestamp details. Unfortunately, I've put a few tasks over to this system, so I can't keep up with all of them. But if you were to newly deliver something, you could just go by timestamp and go ahead and understand which one you're looking for. Also, the file extension is going to help. So I'm going to be targeting the VB script file. If I were to have something where it's just going to be standard output, let's just look at a general piece of code that I have over there. This is looking for, looks like class variables. It does require command line parameters, so I'm going to look for something a little more simplistic when I do this. So this looks like a good one. Looks like it's showing installed products, WMI registered application. So this is 8489.vbs. So the handler on the system by default is going to be C script. That's what we're going to invoke it with. So I'm going to call it just like I would as a script checker task. This is how script runner is going to invoke it. So C script 8489.vbs. Now, if there were to be any halts or prompts or command line variables required, it would give me that information in this. What it's actually going to return is exactly what I'm going to see if it were to return to the dashboard as a script check or an automated task. So this is loading under local system. Here's my output. So definitely a good tool there for troubleshooting as well as calling on other processes and staging the machine. So what I want to do now is I want to jump back over to the Automation Manager. I want to show you how to do a task that can have the conditionals built in. So we're just going to quickly talk through that. And then I'm going to look at building a piece of code just out of Notepad even, something simple for someone that's more interested in writing the actual code and they enjoy that part. Back to here, we're going to create this as a one part, and we're going to talk about this more theoretical of if a given application exists, how to remove it, which modules. So a couple items we're going to be looking at. Application installed. Here you have that given conditional. You can have a failure or false returned if it doesn't exist, true if it does, and also there's an uninstall module. So if you wanted to be able to have an application automatically removed if it exists, what you can do is you can make use of these items and you could say if this, do this. So here let's look for the quick objects. If the application is installed, we can give it an application name. let's say we're to be Adobe, for example, then we could link that variable. Maybe a good idea to actually define it ahead, and we'll actually, in this given scenario, start with an input parameter. So we can say if the application exists, meaning true, then do something. So our then is going to be the uninstall, and then you can have it where it removes the given application. This can also be used if you're looking at the automation manager doing other conditional things and actions. So if you wanted to go in and do registry manipulation, for example, you can do so. You can perform action sequences against other services and modules, better understanding the system variant. It makes it a lot nicer in that you don't have to have any code knowledge here. I'm going to close this out. And what I want to show you real fast is writing your own. So here, I want to, back in the dashboard, point out under the Support Center, there is a user manual, and then we have the script writing guidelines. It talks about how to interface with the dashboard if you want to have a success or a failure return, and we can locate that under, we'll just quickly search for script writing. You also see returning the results to the dashboard. So here's your exit codes. And to give an example where I want to write out a failure to occur in VB script, I can just pull in a notepad file, and I could do a W script. And this would be a hard set failure. So if I wanted to have it always fail or always run that sequence on a check-in, I could have it mapped to a persistent failure and just set the appropriate language extension here, and we're good to go. You can do that for PowerShell. If you find maybe some code that's out on the web, what you can do is you can customize it to, under given conditions, fail or have success. There are some reserved exit codes, and you want to be aware not to utilize those, as those are used from the dashboard. The other thing that I want to point out as a resource for you is our Fixit Scripts community site. So if you maybe want to find things that are written and you want to see things that are more catered to the remote management dashboard, there's a lot of things out here where you can take advantage of pre-built and then more cater it for your needs. The remote management focused ones are built for the dashboard. Anytime there's a fix here, then you can take advantage of that, and the language would be seen for download when you select the item. You can also choose your given language. So if you wanted to come in here and you wanted to, let's say, take advantage of this task, there's going to be code available, and you can just download fix. When you download the fix, it's going to download the language extension followed by a TXT extension. So all you need to do is remove the TXT extension and upload it to your dashboard. When you do so, I do recommend that you provide a good description and some other information around usage. Therefore, when another technician's in here, they're able to take advantage of that. Also, if they want to build it in templates and so forth, they can understand how it should be utilized for best success. So this is kind of going over the creation of tasks, whether it be just a surface level creation of a task through the automation manager, or doing it through your own development utility. Maybe you want to go in and use even Notepad++ might be a good item that you can have, and it reviews the syntax and helps you better align all of your code. Or maybe you just want to use our built-ins. As David mentioned, you have a lot of built-ins here. Everything that's not in the user-defined section. So if you want to do deployment, for example, to a system, or user messaging, we offer that as built-ins. Here's some of the deployment options. We even have application level management built in for you. Wake on LAN, if the device is pre-configured to accept magic packet commands, you can quickly assign that to systems. So a lot of cool things that you can do with automation. What I hope for is that you now feel more comfortable with utilizing this solution, being effective with automation, where you can spend more time in projects and other things that are going to bring you in another revenue source. So what I'm going to do now is kind of turn the floor back over to David, and we'll just kind of take a look at any questions that Brian has not addressed during the session and make sure everybody feels good about the material.
Excellent. Thank you, Ernest. As always, whenever I hear Ernest explaining these things, there's always a few of other things that I continue to learn and to glean from this. So I'm sure you can all agree that this is absolutely a value and a time well spent. Keep in mind, we always do tech walks, so we're more than happy to reach out to your sales executive, and you can get a tech walk set up. Especially, let us know if it's going to be task or script specific, and you get some time with us. We'd be more than happy to train you on these things and to dive a little deeper into the dashboard and how the dashboard and the tools work to implement and get these things up and started. But it's looking like we're pretty much. I got one question coming in here, Ernest, from Rory. He's asking, how do you recommend we apply scripts when onboarding new customers? What do you think of that?
That's a great question. What I would suggest doing, and what I can do is show you in my dashboard real fast how to do this, just onboarding with a given template. Now that we've done more with the monitoring templates, I would suggest that you create a template here. And what you can do is, if you want to have it as a script check for an information gathering, just add it as a script check here once you've uploaded. If it's an automation sequence, just include it as an automated task. Once this is built, you have it available for the assignment under your settings, monitoring templates, under new device installation settings. So for that node, let's say this were to be your new client, just turn it on. Map out that specific onboarding template, and then also you may want to do the run detection, so you're not compromising the checks that we would suggest when you install the agent, and you can still take advantage of that. So any new systems, maybe in a given scenario where you want to, as a standard, deploy an application if it doesn't exist, or remove an application if it exists, or maybe go in and customize an environment, maybe modify or standardize power management settings for your systems. You could do that in this manner, and you don't have to do as much cleanup or arrears management as you may have in the past.
Excellent. Well, it's looking like we're going a little bit past our time, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I do want to thank everyone for attending today, and again, I'll be watching for these webinars. We're absolutely going to be doing more of these going forward, these feature-focused webinars. So I want to thank you all again for attending today, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Have a great holiday. Get back to your online shopping, and be safe out there.
And enjoy some ice cream. That's
right. Enjoy some ice cream. Now that you have the time from Automation Manager, you can actually get to that ice cream. I personally don't have that problem. Take care. Thank you.